You check your bank account. It looks better than last year. The number went up just like it was supposed to. Your salary increased. Maybe more than once. You upgraded a few things, nothing crazy. A better phone, food that doesn't come in plastic trays, the kind of small wins people say mean you are doing well. And yet somehow, the end of the month still shows up like an uninvited guest. Early. Consistently. Almost impressively punctual. You are not reckless. You are not making obviously bad decisions. If anything, you feel more responsible now. More controlled, more adult. Which is funny, because it does not feel any lighter. Actually, it feels tighter, just in a more sophisticated way. The stress did not disappear. It just got a wardrobe upgrade. And here is the part nobody really advertises. What if earning more did not fix your financial life? It just made the problem harder to notice. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. You worked more, learned more, became more valuable. Maybe you asked for a raise, maybe you switched jobs, maybe you just stayed consistent long enough for someone to finally notice. No shortcuts, no risky moves, just the responsible path everyone recommends. And to your credit, it worked, at least on paper. You did not suddenly become irresponsible with money either. No dramatic spending, no late-night decisions you regret the next morning. Just small, reasonable upgrades. The kind that feel earned. A slightly better place to live. Food that saves you time. A few subscriptions that make life easier. Nothing extreme. Nothing that screams, bad decision. It all feels logical. Because it is. The rule always sounded simple. Earn more, worry less. Build your life step by step, reduce friction, gain stability. And in some ways, that happened. Things became more convenient, smoother, less stressful in the obvious ways. But at the same time, something else started growing quietly in the background. Not a big problem, not a dramatic shift, just a subtle weight that was not there before. You do not see it clearly. You just feel it. The expectation is almost too simple to question. If you earn more, your financial life should improve. More space, more control, more freedom. That is the deal. That is what all of this effort is supposed to buy you. But reality does something slightly different. Instead of creating space, your higher income gets absorbed. Not by anything dramatic, no obvious mistakes. Just a series of small, perfectly reasonable upgrades that quietly expand to match whatever you earn. So the gap you expected to grow never really does. It just adjusts. Sometimes it even shrinks, which is a fun little twist no one mentions. Your lifestyle evolves, your normal becomes more expensive, and suddenly maintaining your life costs more than it used to. Not because you lost control, but because everything now has a higher baseline. And here is where it gets uncomfortable. Even though you earn more, you are also more dependent on that income than before. Losing it would hurt more. Cutting back feels harder. So the safety you expected to gain does not quite arrive. It just gets replaced by a more expensive version of pressure. The problem is not that you are earning more. That part is working exactly as intended. The issue is what happens next. Income by itself does not create wealth. It creates capacity. And capacity has a very predictable habit. It gets used. Fully. Efficiently. Almost impressively fast. There is a quiet mechanism running in the background. No alerts, no warnings. As your income increases, your standards adjust right along with it. What used to feel like a luxury starts to feel reasonable. What used to be optional slowly becomes part of your routine. And once something becomes routine, it stops feeling like a choice. It feels like maintenance. That is the shift most people miss. You are not thinking, I am spending more. You are thinking, this is just my life now. And that is where things get tricky. Because your definition of enough is not fixed. It moves, subtly, constantly, and always in the same direction. Up. So instead of building distance between what you earn and what you need, you stay in roughly the same place, just at a higher level, with nicer details and a more expensive version of normal. It looks like progress. But financially, it is often just maintenance in disguise. So what is actually driving this? It is not bad luck. It is not a lack of discipline. And no, it is not because you forgot to budget that one time 3 months ago. It is a system, a very predictable one. And it runs on 3 simple forces. The first is lifestyle expansion. Every time your income increases, it creates room. And that room almost never stays empty. It gets filled with slightly better choices, not dramatic upgrades, just small improvements that feel justified in the moment. You move a little closer to work. You choose convenience more often. You stop thinking twice about things that used to require a quick mental calculation. Individually, these decisions are harmless, reasonable even, but they stack. And over time, those small upgrades stop being upgrades. They become your default. Which leads to the second force, baseline shift. Your brain adapts fast, almost suspiciously fast. What once felt like progress quickly becomes normal. And once it is normal, it loses that feeling of improvement. It just becomes the standard you are expected to maintain. And here's the catch. When something becomes your baseline, going back no longer feels neutral. It feels like loss, even if, objectively, it is perfectly fine. So now, your expenses are no longer flexible in your mind. They feel fixed, necessary, non-negotiable. And then comes the third force, invisible commitments. This is where things get quietly serious. Higher income tends to come with recurring costs, subscriptions, financing, longer-term decisions disguised as small monthly payments. Individually, they look manageable. Together, they create structure. You are no longer just spending money. You are maintaining a system that expects a certain level of income to keep running smoothly. And the more refined your lifestyle becomes, the more delicate that system gets. Put these 3 together, and you get a loop. You earn more. You spend a little more. You adapt. You require more. Then you repeat the whole thing, just at a higher level each time. And here is why this works so well, and by well, I mean dangerously well. At no point does it feel like you are doing something wrong. There is no clear mistake, no obvious breaking point. Just a slow, consistent tightening that hides behind perfectly reasonable decisions, which is exactly why most people never notice it until the pressure is already part of their normal life. Let's make this a little more concrete. Imagine 2 people. Person A earns $3,000 per month, lives simply, keeps things under control, spends around $2,500, saves $500. Nothing flashy, but stable. Person B earns $6,000 per month, clearly doing better at least on paper. Upgrades their lifestyle step by step, better place, more convenience, fewer compromises. Spends $5,500. Saves the same $500. Same savings. Very different lives. Now imagine both lose their income. Person A has room to adjust. Their baseline is lower. Cutting back is uncomfortable, but doable. Person B hits friction immediately. Their normal is expensive. Cutting back does not feel like adjusting. It feels like dismantling their life. That is the part no one puts in the success story. Or take a more subtle version, the kind that actually happens. You start earning more, so you decide to move closer to work. Makes sense. You save time, reduce stress. Your rent increases by a few hundred. Then food changes. You order more often. Not out of laziness, just efficiency. Another couple hundred. Add better groceries, a few subscriptions, small conveniences that make daily life smoother. Nothing dramatic. Another small chunk. Suddenly, a significant part of your raise is gone. Not wasted, just absorbed. And the key word here is absorbed, because it does not feel like spending. It feels like living. Now stretch this over a few years. Income goes up gradually. So do expectations. Add a bit of inflation, a bit of social comparison, a bit of, I can afford this now. Without noticing, your higher income is no longer creating freedom. It is maintaining a larger, more expensive version of your life. From the outside, everything looks like progress, better lifestyle, better choices, fewer visible struggles. But underneath, the margin, the thing that actually creates breathing room, did not really grow. It just got better at hiding. Over time, this stops being just a money issue. It starts shaping your decisions in ways that are easy to miss. When your lifestyle depends on a higher income, your flexibility shrinks. Not all at once, just gradually. You become a little more careful, a little more selective, a little less willing to disrupt the system you built. You stay longer in jobs you do not really like. Not because you cannot leave, but because leaving has a higher cost now. The margin is thinner than it looks. Opportunities that once felt exciting start to feel risky, not because they are bad, but because your current setup is expensive to maintain. Stability becomes less about preference and more about necessity. And then there is the psychological shift. At some point, you stop measuring progress by freedom. You start measuring it by maintenance. Can I sustain this? Can I keep up? It is subtle, but it changes everything. Because now, instead of building a life that gives you options, you are managing a life that requires consistency. High consistency. That creates a quiet kind of pressure. Not panic, not crisis, just a constant background noise that never fully goes away. And the longer this runs, the harder it is to reverse. Cutting back does not feel like strategy. It feels like failure. Like you are moving backwards, even if you are actually regaining control. Which is why most people do not adjust. They adapt and keep going. So here is the part that clears all of this up. Earning more was never the solution. It just looked like one. Income is not a fix. It is an amplifier. If there is no structure, it amplifies consumption. Quietly, efficiently, almost professionally. If there is awareness, it amplifies freedom. But that part requires intention, which is exactly what most people delay, because things seem fine. The real goal was never just to earn more. It was to increase the distance between what you earn and what you need. That gap is what creates options. It is what gives you flexibility, reduces pressure, and makes decisions less fragile. Without that gap, a higher income just builds a more expensive version of the same problem. So if things feel tighter now, even after doing everything right, it is not random. It is not bad luck. It is the system doing exactly what it always does, absorbing, adjusting, expanding, and making it all feel normal. The difference now is simple. You can see it. If any of this felt a little too familiar, that is not a coincidence. Most people are not stuck because they earn too little. They are stuck because the gap never really grew. So here is a simple question to keep in mind. Did your income actually increase? Or did your lifestyle just get better at keeping up? If this gave you a new way to look at it, like the video and share it with someone who is probably in the same loop. And if you want more of this kind of clarity, subscribe.